Hi friends, and welcome to this new Amazon masterclass about creating comics with artificial intelligence at Midjourney. This is a beautiful trip into creativity because we are going to see a lot of things, a lot of interesting things, and as I told you, it's an infinite trip about creativity, fantasy, comics, everything we love the most. There are a lot of things to see. The first thing we have to do is to understand the subscription of Midjourney, because this is fundamental, because you can start with a basic plan of $10 per month, or like in my example, $30 per month, because I need to try many times. I have to create a lot of images for my studies, for examples, for my works, so I need a lot of possibilities, more than the possibilities I can have with a few subscription, because the more I try, the more I learn. But if you prefer, you can start with a basic plan, and because of that you can have access to the community feed. The community feed is really important just for a thing, because you can take some ideas, you can see what other people do, what other people create, and take inspiration. It's important only for taking inspiration, because it's obvious you can go on a single image and you can copy and paste the prompt and you can do the same thing. This is not the solution on the work you have to do. What I suggest you to do is to understand how great artists work with Midjourney, understand how they communicate with artificial intelligence, and then taking that as an example, I repeat, as an example, you can try to do your best to get your images. I suggest to create your image and not images similar to other artists, because there are so many people that are identical to others. And so if you think to use artificial intelligence as a professional, you can create images like other people. So you can get a look here and understand what you can create with artificial intelligence. You can take inspiration for some graphic elements, for some graphic examples, for different type of works, realistic or less. There are a lot of styles that you can use for your creations. This is the first of the 4th course I'm going to create. Why? Because on each course I will teach you specific niche of the work we can create. This was the Explore window, but we have in the home you will find your window with all your works you did in the past. For example, these are all my latest works I did in different niche. For example, you can see a lot of fashion images for some works I was creating, but we can go to the archive, and in the archive you can see all the works you did from the very first time I was using Midjourney. It's really interesting to see all the evolution of the images you can create from, in my example, from June. It's on this period is just 1 year that I'm working on Midjourney. I started working with Midjourney since its version 2. At the moment we are working with version 5.2, and version 6 is supposed to arrive soon. So I'm really excited, as a lot of people. We are excited about all the new features that will be released in version 6 of Midjourney. So we have to start working with the first step of the video, and the first thing we have to do is to open Discord. Discord is the platform that let us to create the prompt for creating the image. So opening Discord, you will find this new interface, and here we can see what the other people are doing. For example, this is good for taking inspiration, but I don't suggest you to use the classic Discord chat for starting writing prompts. Why? Because many people can, as happened to me, but probably it has happened to a lot of people. You will find a lot of people that will steal your prompts, and then probably you can spend a lot of time creating a prompt, and then in 10 seconds you will find other people that are using your prompt creating other images like yours. So I suggest you to create your own bot and work on your bot. The first thing to do for creating a server is to add a server. So you can click here and you create your own server for me and my friends. For example, text server. You can upload a picture if you want, and you can, in this way, you create your server. After you have created your server, you have to add a bot on the server. So you can come back here on Midjourney, and you have to click on the Midjourney bot, and you can decide to add to a specific server, because you can have more than one server. So you click here and you will see add a bot to a server, and you have to choose the server from this list. For example, this is the server we created before, server test. And now I click continue, I authorize, and now we are on our new test server. For example, if I want to check my settings on this server, and especially here, I click on the slash button on the keyboards and then go on settings. I click OK, and now we can see the most important section of this part. So our settings, we are in style raw, because I selected the raw mode that was new on Midjourney number 5, Midjourney version 5.1, raw mode, stylized medium, that is great for working, public mode, fast mode, you can choose between the slow mode or the fast mode. There are not too many differences, but I suggest you, if you are on the basic plain subscription, probably you can try to change to slow mode. Remix mode, it's good because if you want to mix two different images, Midjourney can mix image A and image B in a brand new image, so you can mix both the images, and sometimes it could be useful if you are trying to get new ideas, or you need to mix different pictures, especially from if you have a picture of a model and you have a specific image of a background. For example, Midjourney lets you put the model from image 1 into the background of the image B, and then it's really nice. Sometimes it's a good choice for your work, so I suggest you to use remix mode. And that's all. These are the basic for start working with Midjourney. Let's go here in our private server, and I want to start with a very basic prompt, just in case you have no ideas. I don't know how I can create a comic character, so what can I do? The first thing is to create a prompt, so I create the prompt, and as I told you, let's start with a very obvious and really easy prompt to create. For example, Spider-Man flying in the sky of New York, aspect ratio 4:5. Let's see what happens. I did not specify any kind of comic illustration, comic book, Marvel Comics, or name of designer, nothing, because I want to start from the very beginning, because I want to understand what Midjourney creates starting from zero, and I want to show you the differences, adding some specific keywords that can help us to get the effect we are looking for. So this is the first. Okay, the results no, this is absolutely not, but the results are quite good, because as you can see, oh too much fingers but we can fix in Photoshop. Look at that, it's beautiful, this effect. Oh, the bot here on the river, great. Look at that, the skyscrapers, great. Also this, beautiful, the sunshine on the back. Okay, we can see that images are quite good, so we can do the same. If I change the name of the superhero, just to see how Midjourney works, starting from a very basic prompt. But remember, we did not add any type of keyword. So in this case, we are looking at what Midjourney does, just to see the results starting from this very basic prompt. Let's see. In this case, okay, images can be quite good, but as you can see, this is not properly a comic illustration. And this is just because Midjourney creates the image basing on the character's name. But in this case, I want to be more specific. In this example, the result was a little better, but it looks like a 3D character. Like in the video games, I want to be more specific. I want to get a more realistic comic result. So in this case, Spider-Man fly in the sky of New York. Let's see. Comic illustration. Let's see what happens. I'm using again a very basic prompt because I want to do subtle adjustments step by step, because things we can do are infinite. We can understand which type of keywords influences Midjourney better than others. So let's see the differences between the first prompt and this new prompt. Okay. This was the original, the first prompt. Look at the details here. It's fantastic. Okay, this was the first prompt. And this is the new prompt we created. So as you can see now, I can notice that this type of images looks like a comic illustration. Much better than the first. Okay. Even if, as I told you, the results are good, but I want to simulate perfectly the style of a comic illustration. So this type of result is much better than the first, but you have to notice that I wrote only comic illustration, or I can write Marvel comic illustration. I want to show you the differences using the same character, but we can do the same work for different characters, using the name of very famous Marvel illustrators. In the past, many different illustrators created different type of images about Spider-Man for this example. So I want to know them and I want to understand the differences between each of them, because I would like to emulate their styles to be more accurate. So the thing I can do is to go here, I go on my browser, I create a new Google. I can be specific and more specific. Spider-Man best illustrators. Look at that. 10 best Spider-Man artists of all time. And here I can get the name, the specific name of the illustrator. Humberto Ramos, Marcos Martin, Ron Frenz, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane. I don't know these famous artists, but this is a good way to know them and to emulate their style. Look at that. John Romita Sr. is one of the famous artists, one of the famous illustrators. John Romita Senior. Yes, okay. So I can run again my prompt, but here by now copy by John Romita Senior. And let's see what happens. In this case, the image will be different from the previous just because we added this specific keyword, character by John Romita. And most important thing, one specific style, because John Romita is totally different from Todd McFarlane or Mark Bagley or John Romita Jr. also. Steve Ditko. And here you can see also the history, but let's see the differences. Okay. This is the style of John Romita. This images looks like a 3D video games character. I don't see so much differences. This is the best. Let's see again. I can use inserting calling 5. 5 is the number that suggests Midjourney to be as more influenced as possible by the name before. I can use 1 to 5 to suggest Midjourney to be more influenced or less influenced by the keyword before. So I want to see the differences because every time it's different. Results are always different and not always at the first attempt you can get the result you want. So you have to spend time, but it's as I always tell to my students, it's a creative time that is good to be spent waiting for amazing images. Because if you create the good prompts, results are really amazing. So let's see if I see differences here. Okay, this. Yes, in the second, yes, I can upscale the second image here. And as you can see, this is perfectly the style. Let's see John Romita Senior. Okay, perfect. And now can see the difference between John Romita and Steve Ditko. Let's copy the name. I can run the prompt again, but character by Steve Ditko. Let's see the differences between these two different artists. I'm so curious to see how a different name of the comic illustrator can change the result of the image. Even if the background remains the same, Spider-Man flying in the sky of New York, but I want to see, as you can see now, the differences. This was John Romita Senior, and now you can see, look at that. Especially on this is very horrible. This or this, but upscale number 3, because I want to show you in the details the differences between Steve Ditko and John Romita Senior. Look at that. This is Steve Ditko and this is John Romita Senior. Differences are in terms of colors, in terms of tones, in terms of drawing also. Look, it's totally different. And this is like the style we choose it from Steve Ditko. Fantastic. Let's see again other artists. Alex Ross, Umberto Ramos, look at that. Mike Zack, Sara Pichelli, John Romita Sr. is the same, Art Adams, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, Mark Bagley, look. Ditko again. Look at that here. John Romita is the most Spider-Man. By 9, Spider-Man fighting against Goblin in the sky of New York. I want to insert another character because I want to see the style of Steve Ditko, and I want to see the results because I want to simulate in this example perfectly, as much as possible obviously, the style of Steve Ditko, and we will run this prompt again, changing the name of the illustrator to see the differences, because the most interesting thing is that we can choose the style of the comic illustrator, and this is a great possibility that we have in creating our illustrations. I don't know, Goblin is... Where is Goblin? This is perfectly created, but this man is not Goblin. But look the style, it's perfect. When we create prompts, we have 4 possibilities, but we have to understand that not all of these 4 examples can be good. Maybe 1 can be good, maybe 2, or maybe nothing of them, and so you have to run the prompt again, or you have to change some keywords in your prompt to get the result you want. So don't be afraid if at the first attempt you don't get the result that you want. In this case, the illustration is perfect because the style is what I want. The mistake is that I wrote Goblin and here I don't see Goblin. It's not good for me. I can run the prompt again, and while we are waiting for the render, I want to look at other artists. Bagley also, look at that, Jill Kane, Eric Larson. In this case also we didn't get Goblin. I don't know if there's a problem with Goblin in the specific, but let's focus on the comic style, because now we are emulating the style of Steve Ditko, and look at that. Let me see. It's really strange. Let's try to run the same prompt, changing the name Eric Larson, and I try to change the name Goblin into Lizard. Dr. Lizard. What happens if I change the name of the comic illustrator now? This is Eric Larson, a totally different style, Amazon the same. Let's see in the details. Amazing images. Incredible, absolutely amazing, look at that. So, look at the difference between one character. This is more comic book style, this is like a 3D effect. Okay, these were the results. At this point I want to show you how results will change, changing only a specific keyword here on the prompt. What I mean is Spider-Man. It's just an example, because later I will show you that we can create our character using these specific illustrators. So Spider-Man is only an example that I use here only for this first part of the lesson. I will change character by, I will use art by Steve Ditko, colon 5, aspect ratio 4:5, and stop. I only wrote Spider-Man, but I changed the last part of the prompt using art by. No more character by, because changing this word you will see different results. It's crazy to think, but sometimes nothing happens, and other times results are totally different. And let's see, now the results will be more similar to a comic illustration, only changing a word. Look at that. This is exactly what I want. Run the prompt again. I can add flying. But look, the style is totally different. And this is what I want to get for my images, because I want to use a comic style, as much as possible realistic. I don't want a 3D effect in this case. I want my images look like a comic book magazine, as you can see in this case. Look at that. Boom! This is perfectly like a comic book. I can change the name of the illustrator. Jill Kane. Let's use Jill Kane. Run the prompt again. And let's see how the image can change writing the name of a different artist. Because now we are looking at Spider-Man, but we can use these names for our creations, and this is really great, because as I'll show you, we can create everything we want with the style of the best illustrators. And here are the results. I want to run the prompt again. In this first example I want to create basic prompt just to show you the power of adding different names. Other images, look at that. Yes, wow, boom, fantastic, absolutely great, absolutely great. Eric Larson. Yes, I want to try him as our last example. Look. Iron Man. Art by colon 5. Aspect ratio 4:5. And let's see what happens now. I'm so curious because it's a beautiful trip into fantasy, into creativity, into comics, because results can be amazing. Look at that. We are creating Iron Man with a style inspired by this great illustrator, Eric Larson. Let's see. Look at that. This is fantastic. But to be more accurate, I can write here on Google Iron Man best illustrators. Because here we can see different illustrator. Look at that. George Perez. Yes, let's try. Copy. And let's see what happens changing only the name. In this case, I don't want to use Colin, but I want to use only Iron Man art by George Perez. Let's see the differences between these two totally different illustrators. But for me, in my opinion, this is the most interesting aspect of our research, because I want to know illustrators, I want to know different styles, just to show you all the things we can do before creating our characters. So we can take inspiration from a lot of artists, a lot of illustrators. Great. Look. Amazing. Look at that. And different from this. Look. This style is more ink draw, respect. The second, maybe, but it's different. You can choose the style you prefer, and then we can continue. My top 10 Iron Man artists. Let's see. Tom Morgan. Let's try Tom Morgan. Let's see. I'm curious to see how much a different artist name can influence the final result of this prompt. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Yes, interesting results. And let's see also the previews we did before. But I want to get a more comic book style. At this point, we can run again the prompt, but in this case, let's change art by Sal Buscema. I want to insert marvels also, just to be sure that the style is perfect. But you will notice that some artists can influence more than others the final result of the prompt. I'm sure, because I've tried before, that Sal Buscema will give us totally different results. Let's have a look, friends. So many times we have to change a lot of times before finding an artist that can influence more than other the result of the image we are going to create. But let's have a look to this new result, because this is so great. And for example, if I like the result that I get now, I can create my own character basing on the style of Sal Buscema. Why? Because in this case, look at that, it's really identical to the Marvel's comics. Look at that. Look. Oh wow. Maybe it's not the style that you're looking for, but you have to analyze how. Look. The differences of the styles in terms of colors, in terms of ink drawings also. Look at that. This is the old school. Look. This is absolutely 100% a comic book style. This is what I'm looking for. I can change. Just to see how many things we can do. So the most important thing is to understand that we have to spend a part of our time in researching. You have to find a good illustrator that is great for the images that you want to create. In this case, I'm focused for this example on some illustrators by Marvel Comics, but we can find other types of artists. In the next lesson, I'll show you where to find other artists and how the art and the techniques of each single artist can create totally different images. Look at that, the Spider-Man is totally different from the others we created before. Look at that. This is totally different. So I know that if I want to get a totally 100% comic book look, I have to write Salbuschema. And then we can continue as many times as we want. I repeat, this is the first example. I wanted to create a character that all of us know, Spider-Man, Iron Man, and we created a lot of images of Spider-Man and Iron Man also, using different styles coming from different artists of Marvel Universe, of course. This was only the first step. And then you can continue as many times as you want. You can change. Kevin Hopgood also, look at that. Don Heck. Let's try the last example. In the next example, I will show you where to find other artists and we will create our own character using the techniques of our favorite illustrators. Not only from Marvel, because there are a lot of artists that can influence our images in a totally different way. So we are only at the beginning of our beautiful trip. But look here, other differences between Sal Buscema and Don Heck. Look at that. The comic style remains, but the style of the illustrator has changed. I wanted to be as more similar as possible to a comic book. So in this case, I prefer this type of images, this instead of this. Beautiful, the same, but I wanted to get an old school style coming from the past, coming from the comic book I read when I was young, and so I'm in love with this type of images. And then we can create a lot of images, a lot. So in the next lesson we will see where to find other artists and different types of art for creating our amazing images. So we can take a break and then let's jump into the next lesson.